This is the Free Heel Life Podcast, episode number 168. I'm your host, Josh Madsen, coming at you from the Free Heel Life shop in Salt Lake City, Utah. And it's always good to be back on Monday morning with all of my Telemark friends and family around the world. Thank you all for listening. We've got another episode of some Telemark Pirate Radio today, bringing you all of the goods about what's going on out there in the Free Heel Life world. So let's hop into this. I've been the list is stacking and stacking of events happening, mostly because we got World Telemark Day coming up and all sorts of stuff. So I want to go over that. But first, a quick reminder: we announced that we're going to be closing April 1st. That's going to be the last day of the brick and mortar retail shop in Salt Lake. We will obviously keep rolling online. We are always available there. So check out freeheellife.com to get your stuff prior to the season ending, or drop by and you can come into the brick and mortar shop in Salt Lake. We are open Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon until 7 p.m. or Saturday until 10 a.m. until 4 p.m. Closed on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays. So be sure to check that out. And if we update any hours, many times we start sort of trimming the hours as we get towards the end of the season. So we always encourage people to check out prior to coming by, just so you don't end up coming by at a time when we are closed. Also, last podcast of the season is going to be April 3rd. I'm going to be taking a little sabbatical over the summer to focus on some other content and other business ventures and whatnot. So I'm going to be stacking up these final podcasts in the coming weeks, and appreciate you all listening. Hopefully it'll give you a chance to catch up on some too. I know putting one out a week can be a lot, although there are some faithful listeners out there that have listened to every single episode, and I appreciate you so much for doing that. 168 episodes is no joke, so I appreciate you coming along for the ride. I did want to mention we're starting to do some fun stuff. We had free demos, first come, first serve, that we sent out this weekend. We knew that our friends at Midwest Telefest up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan were going to have Free Heel Life demos, so we figured, why not do the same? So if you're one of those lucky folks that was able to pick up a free demo and check it out over the weekend in Salt Lake as well, hope you had a good time. And we're going to be looking at trying to do more fun stuff like that to help people get on equipment maybe they otherwise wouldn't have the opportunity to do, or maybe they need to try it prior to purchase. So hope that was a good time for everybody out there. So I mentioned Midwest Telefest. I hope all of you Free Heel Lifers that went to that event had a great time. Keith Opperman and crew putting that on up at the Porcupine State Park up in Michigan. And wish we could have been there. We couldn't make it this year, but it looked like a good time. And I hope all of you that went up there were able to enjoy the Free Heel Life Glades recently named run up there, which I talked about last week. Hopefully you got a chance to check that out, or the Smelly Knee Pad GS race, which is sort of our sister event that we do here at the end of our season in Utah, the original Smelly Knee Pad. We'll talk about that when it gets a little bit closer, maybe towards the end of the podcast episodes. But hope you all had a good time at that, as well as the Colorado skiers that went to Monarch Mountain this past weekend for Telefestivus. We hope that was a great time and you enjoyed hanging out with the folks there at Monarch, another fine mountain where there are many Telemark skiers. And I'm sure the terrain's good, and I'm sure it's amazing. But we're not going to blow it up, right? It's like we got to talk about this cool stuff without totally telling you to go there. I don't know how that's possible. So maybe we're underground enough that if you're listening to this, the people that actually ski these areas won't get mad when more people show up. So always a tricky situation with that. Okay, so moving on. what is coming up? Next weekend, February 18 and 19, let's hop over to Japan. Telemark Psycho Nazawa. Deanna Rivera, I've had her on the podcast multiple times. She runs We Telemark, and she's working on the Telemarkeras movie documentary. So we've kind of teamed up. We're trying to work together a little bit to support her events over in Japan. She's also going to Argentina in the Southern Hemisphere season. So lots of cool stuff. Make sure to check out that event coming up that she is putting on. If you are on social media, I did have her shoot a little video that we're going to put on the YouTube channel and the Instagram. So hopefully I'll have that up by the time you're listening to this. If not, probably within the next 24 hours that you're hearing this. And she's going to give a little introduction about what's going on. So check that out if you're in Japan. Also, she will be doing a World Telemark Day gathering, and I'll have more information on that as we get closer. So rocking and rolling over to New York. I wanted to bring this up. We've got our good friends at the City Garage are putting on Telestock at Holiday Valley Ski Area Friday, February 24th. It's a free event with free lunch and tele demos run by City Garage. And there's usually like 70 plus Telemark skiers having a good time at that event. And they are good buddies of ours. They've always been incredibly supportive of what I've done, helped me put my movies on back in the day at the old depot in Ellicottville. And shout out to Jay, who emailed me all of this as well and keeping it on my radar. So Telestock in Western New York, get down Ellicottville. If you're in that Kissing Bridge, Buffalo area, that's your spot. Also, 36th Annual Corey Anderson Telemark Festival over in Bromley, Vermont, February 26 and 27. I've mentioned this one before. Great event. And then I also got notification on Friday, March 3rd, just before World Telemark Day. They're going to have the Telefest at Hollymont, which is next door to Holiday Valley. So Ellicottville, Western New York's always got it going on. If you're not familiar with Hollymont, it's a private ski area right next to Holiday Valley that is open to the public on weekdays. So there is a cost because it includes group telemark lessons by PSIA instructors, all skiing levels from beginners to advanced lessons. And there's usually 2 groups of advanced and expert lessons depending on whether you want to work on bumps, trees, or not. You also get lunch. Demos again by City Garage. So March 3rd, I mean, it's close enough to World Telemark Day. So get over there and celebrate. And I love that there's an instructional component of this. That's amazing. So if you're in that Western New York area, you want to travel a little bit and you can be a part of a group of people and also be able to learn. Awesome opportunity to go to a cool event, meet some cool folks, and get some instruction. So that kind of leads us all up to World Telemark Day and what's going on. I'm going to fire through these as quick as I can because I know if you're listening to this every week, there's a lot of repeats, but I want to make sure I'm doing my part to make sure you know if you're in the zone where to go. So we'll make it quick. Colorado Front Range Telemark skiers, Eldora Mountain, March 4th. Colorado Telecalo is going to be there. They're putting their little World Telemark Day meetup on. It's a blast. Make sure to do that. Going back to the East Coast, Lake Placid, New York. They're going to spend the first part of the day at Whiteface Mountain all morning and a final group run at the gondola at 1 p.m. And then they're going to do a little 2 p.m. meetup at the Cascade Welcome Center for some fun XCD music and campfires. Lake Placid, New York on the radar. Also on the East Coast, Berkshire East, meet up at Chair 4 at 10 a.m. for the Frolic of the Freehealers Telemark tips by PSIA certified instructor Hal. Okay. You can hit him up at skistrees@gmail.com for more information. And I did get an email from Berkshire East that they've got it on their website. And it's just cool to see, as we are kind of growing this, I love seeing people reach out. And it seems like we're really able to sort of get more people involved. Not only this particular one, Hal, that's putting it on, it's also really cool to get the resort reaching out to us as well and letting us know that it's on their website and they're going to be pushing out the message to their database and all the social media stuff. So that's amazing. And thank you for being a part of that Berkshire East Mountain Resort. Love it. I got some more information. This is still my favorite. I love the small places. Ski Sawmill Resort in Morris, Pennsylvania. Eric hit me back up and he's going to be there with his family at Sawmill when they start spinning the lifts. So if you're looking for Eric, he's going to have a Viking helmet on all day long and probably skiing with a dog in his backpack. And I love this because he hit me up. He's like, I'm a friendly enough dude and happy to make some turns and share stoke with anyone. So this is what World Telemark Day is all about, meeting new people. If you're anywhere near Morris, Pennsylvania, and you want to go hit up Ski Sawmill, it's also their winter carnival that weekend. It's a family-oriented event. They've got a dummy jump, kids costume contest, pond skim, and even a slope-style competition. So not a bad weekend. You got a carnival and World Telemark Day. Staying on the East Coast, Waterville Valley, New Hampshire. Look for Nick. He runs the Granite State Telemark Instagram page. So you can, if you're on IG, that's a good spot to connect. And he said they're going to muster up at 10 a.m. at the base of the Tecumseh Express lift in front of the food truck. Then do a top to bottom run under the chairlift to show off the power of the tele-turn for any and everyone to see. So hit up Nick. Live free or die. New Hampshire, baby. Let's make it happen. Wolf Creek in Colorado outside of Pagosa Springs. I'm waiting for a couple details, but Justin hit me up there. I sent him information. So we know Pagosa has got, or Wolf Creek, I guess it's not right in Pagosa, but you're in the zone. We know there are not only Telemark skiers there, but there's some really good snow and fun terrain. I just drove through there a couple weekends ago. It is looking really good up there and very pretty zone to go skiing. So that gets us through the World Telemark Day stuff. I probably need an entire episode just to talk about every meetup, but that's what I got so far. Hit me up on my Instagram at Josh Nomadson. Send me a DM with your details of where you're meeting up, or you can hit me up at podcast@freeheellife.com. And I am happy to spread the love, and we'll find a way. I mean, as these all sort of start showing up, we're going to have to find we can't take a whole podcast episode. I mean, maybe we can. I don't know. The last couple that I wanted to bring up. So March 10 and 12, that following weekend, is Skoofanada. This is so let me spell this because a gentleman hit me up about this and didn't know how to look it up. Scufoneda. Skoofanada. Okay? From Italia. Skoofanada in the Dolomites. Check it out. Amazing festival that's going down. If you can't make it this year, the Skoofons are a wonderful group of people. You want to go. I promise. You definitely want to go. Then, Mad River Glen, Vermont on Friday and Saturday, the Freehill Frolic on March 10 and 11. And that's going down at Mad River Glen, the Freehill Frolic. I spoke with, and I wanted to bring this up, I spoke with Wendy Bridgewater, who is putting on this event, and a wonderful person who spent many years with Dickie Hall, working with him and in the NATO camp. She has invited me to be a part of this event virtually. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get to the East Coast, but On Saturday, March 11th, around 6, let's see, I think it's at 4:45 Eastern or 6:45 Eastern. I'll double check on this now that I'm reading my notes. I am going to be doing a Zoom call into the event and talking about equipment and answering questions, and kind of a nice little opportunity to connect with the folks at the Freehill Frolic. So super excited about that. I think it's I'm looking at the times and I'm looking at the text she sent me. I'll have to double check, but I believe it's 6:45 Eastern, and I will double check with that and let you guys all know. Sometimes I don't get all my studying in before I give you guys these notes, and then I'm like winging it. So I'm doing my best. But either way, if you're a part of that, I will be chiming in on the Zoom call, and we will get it done. Super stoked about that. Okay, so the last one to talk about is Sun Valley, Idaho. How could I forget this? Hawaiian Nationals, normally in April, is getting bumped to March 18. Hawaiian Nationals, Sun Valley Tele. Big shout out to those guys. They're always putting on great events, lots of history. If you don't know much about it, you can check it out via the podcast that I did with them last year. So, okay, that takes us through our newsroom and notes. Whew. Okay, so let's get to the meat and potatoes of this week. I want to talk about mid-season maintenance. Okay, so I'm going to break this into 3 parts, because this is the time of year where I feel like maintenance, again, is kind of a broad term, but I want to talk and break this down into how I look at maintenance sort of in the middle of a telemark season, what that is for me, and then give you some ideas, some podcast references to go back to, and I would love to hear what other things you're thinking of. So we're going to break this down into mind, body, and gear. Okay? So we're maintenance on all these things and kind of what that means, some checkpoints that maybe you can look at and whatnot, just to make sure that you're on track, you're feeling good, and you're having a good season. So let's hop into it. So number 1, we want to talk about the mind side of telemark. So, one thing I like to do kind of mid-season is sort of take stock of how the season is progressing, okay? All of us are in such an array of lifestyles and what type of skiing that we're doing. Somebody who's living a full-on ski bum lifestyle and skiing every day versus somebody that maybe lives in an area where they can't ski every day, or their job or responsibilities don't let them, the classic weekend warrior, whatever. It's all good. Like, we're all having a good time, but it's kind of a different, what you're doing is different during the winter. So for me, I think this resonates with all sorts of people and all sorts of, winter lifestyles. It's just a good time to kind of take stock of how the mind's doing. And I always like to look at how the season's progressing for me. Mostly I like to go over the goals I've set for myself for the season and how they're progressing. Some of the earlier podcasts I've done, usually preseason. What am I doing to get ready for the season? What am I going to focus on this year? How am I going to improve? When, maybe that's the more adult Josh Madsen version, is like, these very specific things. Whereas like the younger me was probably like, okay, I'm preparing for the season. How do I ski as much as possible? It's depending on what kind of time we have during a winter, we're going to have different objectives. But I think this is the time of year The snow's in, hopefully. The snow is in. The runs are good. The backcountry's hopefully doing well. And you're out, you're out having fun. But are you progressing in the things that you want to progress in? How are you skiing? For me personally, I'd say right now, I wish I was skiing a little bit more. And for me, the mental side of that is when I am skiing and I get on slope, for me, I always wish I was in a little bit better like ski shape. I feel like I'm in pretty good shape, but not necessarily. Telemark shape is different, right? Like you get in and you're like, oh yeah, I'm in good shape. And I always joke like, with the rest of the Free Heel Life team, I'm always like, yeah, I'm good off the couch, old man Madsen pulling it off. But, I think for me personally, I can tell you mid-season check-in, I wish my legs and sort of muscles and all my tissues were feeling a little bit better if I were to go like bell to bell, start to finish on a ski day. So that's kind of my personal check-in. As far as like working on my skiing, I felt pretty good, so far. Like when I've gone out, I'm feeling smooth. I'm feeling like, the little bit of technique stuff I've been focusing on is coming together. And I like that. I like sort of looking at it mid-season and going, hey, am I improving on this whole thing? Am I enjoying myself? Am I learning something new? Am I paying attention to my technique and my equipment and what I'm able to do? So, after you kind of take stock of where you're at, here's the number one thing you got to check in on this time of year is, are you having fun? That's the whole point, right? And no matter how serious or not serious you are, whatever type of personality you have, I think some people have fun challenging themselves, and that's where the fun is derived from. And some people just need it loose all the time, and that's how you're having fun. But regardless, I think we can all agree that we got to have fun when we're out there. And, I think sometimes that's taking soul laps by yourself. I know that's one thing I do. is sometimes I got to split off from the group, and I just like taking solo, a solo lap or two and just chilling, and I like to do that. And that always kind of brings it back into focus for me, about why I enjoy telemark skiing, and I like skiing in a group too for a different, especially because I'm usually skiing with like younger people that are just charging, right? Of course, the old guy wants to charge with the young guys. That's how it is, right? It's good. And I like that too for different reasons, but I think make sure you're taking stock of that as well. Are you taking time to balance things out and have fun? You're not getting too bogged down with whatever you're doing, sometimes you just got to take a little refresher lap by yourself and just chill out, go ski some trees, go ski some bumps, rip some groomers, find a little pal stash, and that's what it's all about, get away from, shooting your GoPro or your, whatever is distracting you. It's just get on and feel yourself sliding on the snow. And I think that's what this is all about. So the last thing I was going to mention is is we're heading into the back half of the season is what types of things do you want to focus on in the coming weeks? What are those, techniques you want to hone in and master? And maybe it's hitting that run you've never done before, maybe you're an intermediate telemark skier, and this is when you need to start thinking, okay, like I'm feeling pretty good. The end of the season is going to come up quicker than I realize. Maybe this is the time to go to that run that I'm just not totally sure if I can do it, but you think you have the skill set built up, and now you just kind of have to add the little confidence to the little mixture. Okay. Maybe it's something new that you want to try. Maybe you're a beginner telemark skier and you sort of want to get into a little bit more difficult terrain, like getting into the bumps, or maybe take your first tree run, and maybe that's what you want to do before the end of the season. Maybe you're a resort telemark skier and you want to get into the backcountry. And maybe this is your opportunity as you head towards spring, and the majority of places the snow begins to settle a little more. Maybe you could take a nice little beginner avalanche course or find a backcountry partner. The goal is as we get to the back half of the season is, what are we going to do that's new and fun? It's going to add to the fun. It's going to add to your level of stoke at the end of the season, saying, you know what? That was a really fun, badass season. I learned a lot. I worked on a lot. I had fun. And I did something new. I challenged myself. I did something difficult. And I know that everyone will come out of that experience feeling better and just having a great time. So a couple podcasts or one podcast that I want to associate with the mind portion of our mid-season maintenance is episode number 20 that I did called The Life Cycle, Not Life Hack of a Telemark Skier. Okay. And I think this would be a good episode if you want to go back and look at this episode. I think it really talks a lot about this topic, is sort of the life cycles of a telemark skier, and sort of how we move through from the very, very beginning to sort of fine tuning and becoming an expert over a long period of time. And so I wanted to refresh, jog the memory, go back. That's a great one to listen to, that I think goes along well with this idea of mind maintenance at this part in the season, and sort of remembering that this is a life cycle that we're going through as a telemark skier, and not necessarily like there's just some easy way to jump ahead. And wanted to mention that. So I hope you'll check that one out as well. So number 2, we're talking about the body. This is a big part of keeping it going, and the first thing we got to think of as we're going into this part of the season is, how is the body holding up? I'm sure the minute I said body maintenance, some of you out there are probably thinking, it's rough. You're feeling it, right? Here's the thing. I think, again, it all depends on how much you're getting on snow. Some of us that aren't like I said, this is my not only mental but body check-in mid-season, as I'm sort of thinking, okay, how am I doing? That's usually my gauge, I think. And I'm sure it is for a lot of you out there, is you want to feel good when you're out there. And sometimes when it's a little sore, or you're going, maybe you haven't skied and you're on a vacation and all of a sudden you're going like back to back, bell to bell, it can get a little rough, right? So check in with yourself. How's the body holding up? What types of things, is it just sore muscles, or have you tweaked some things? The biggest thing I want to mention as you go into this latter half of the season is, make sure that you're skiing within the realm of possibility for what your body can do. Don't unnecessarily push it, And this is about having fun too. It's not fun to blow a knee. It's not fun to pull muscles. It's not fun to be sore, but maybe that's part of the journey. But I think sometimes this is the part of the season where like the confidence level could even start going up a little bit, or maybe you're pressed for time and you're like, no, I just got to get after it. But just remember, this is a long game. Just like we talked about the life cycle of a telemark skier, health is such a big part of this, is making sure that the body is you're slowly working over the course of the season and the course of many seasons to get that telemark body, so to speak, So don't push yourself too hard. We want to progress and we want to work, right? And you want to have fun, but don't be stupid, do good things. I see sometimes, and I remember look, when we're all young, and I get it. And so this is, if you're young and listening to this, use your confidence wisely, and know what your capabilities are, because sometimes I see people just huck meat, and they're just blowing up and breaking themselves off. And there's calculated ways to do things. So make sure you're doing that. As you're getting into this part of the season, don't unnecessarily push yourself. Rest and recovery. That's the next thing, is make sure that you're resting. Make sure you're letting your body recover. Like I said, sometimes we get pressed for time. I know that's for sure me. It's like, here's my time to go skiing. And then it's like, if you could go skiing again, you might do it, even though your body's like, I don't know, bro, you need to sort of chill out. I'm renowned for doing that. Not having a balance there. So again, make sure you're doing other things that are keeping that body up. I've been, this season has been great. One thing, I started swimming. I love that, I'm always doing jujitsu, swimming. I've kind of got this array of stuff. So like when I do go skiing, I feel like the cardio's there. Like I said, ski shape, just like anything else, it's like ski shape is ski shape. It's the more you do it, I think it's, at least for me, I guess I can only speak for myself, but the more I ski, the better in ski shape I am. But these other things that I'm able to do throughout the week, if I don't have time to get there, definitely influence my ski experience. So, yeah, making sure you're resting, recovering, and doing other things, so you're not just hammering your body away. So I wanted to mention improving how your body works on the hill. This is a big one. Are you being efficient in how you're telemark skiing? And hopefully I'm not jumping too much around here. I'm just sort of trying to say overarching theme of body. Like, check in with yourself. Don't do things unnecessarily. Make sure you rest up. But one thing I want to do when I am skiing is I want to encourage all of you to, as you're looking at how the body mechanics work on your telemark skiing, is be efficient. Now there's lots of ways to look at maybe efficiency on the hill and how your technique plays into that. I'm just going to point one thing out, and I know this is incredibly difficult. One of these days we'll get to a video podcast, and then I can sort of use my hands. But I'll do my best. If there's one thing I've gotten good at, it's explaining things on this medium, so you can hear it. But let's talk efficiency of the turn. The biggest thing when I teach someone how to telemark ski that I notice is, are people going too low in their stance or even too high? The back leg, and this is going to be total generalization, so take it as that, but the back leg, my uphill ski, I usually keep it at about 90 degrees. And then I keep about a boot length between heel and toe in my stance. So when you're in that lunge, I don't want to compress past 90 degrees on my back leg, and I don't want less than 90 degrees, so that leg angle is more obtuse, I guess would be the way to talk about it. I don't know. I wasn't really good in school, so maybe I'm using the wrong geometry term there. But keeping it at 90, that's a really efficient way. Now, there's obviously up and down motion happening and stuff, but that's where I see people wasting the most energy and not being energy efficient, is getting too low unnecessarily in a turn is going to cook you faster. Okay. And standing up is going to cook your other leg, probably because you're probably not pressuring the ball of your foot on that uphill ski. I'm not going to go too much in depth on that, but what I want you to start doing is think about how your turn looks and turns, linking the turns. what we want to do is it's like anything when you start out, is when you're a beginner, and this kind of goes back to this life cycle concept of a telemark skier, is when you start out doing something, it's clunky. That's just life, right? Like you start doing something, you don't really know how to do it. You're not thinking about efficiency. You're thinking, I just need to figure out how to do this. And then as time goes on and you gain experience and you gain perspective, is you start shaving things down. You start smoothing it out, right? It's like, you look at a smooth rock in a river, right? Like that thing has tumbled and tumbled and tumbled. And, that's basically like learning how to telemark ski. And that's what I'm saying. Right now is a good time to look at, how you can tumble the edges off, so to speak, of your telemark turns, how your transitions are, and just try to figure out how to get rid of the stuff you don't need, And I think that's what's fun about, if you're a telemark skier, at least listening to my podcast, most likely you're vibing on the idea that our brains just like to work in a different way than a lot of people, is you're wanting to hone the craft. You are a crafts person, and telemark is your craft. And what I'm asking you to do at this point in the season is, how do you make it better? Because making it better is maybe even style. And as you get better style, it becomes even more energy efficient. I could go on and on about this stuff. Just look at your turns and figure out how you want to better it and how to save yourself some energy. Because in turn, that's going to save your body from getting crushed when you go skiing, just doing unnecessary stuff on the hill. Last thing about the body I wanted to bring up, just find ways to challenge yourself in the last half of the season. Maybe someone's listening to this and they're like, my body's dialed. I am just a crusher. I am going to crush the mountain no matter what. I don't know. That's not me. I'm always like, okay, I got to figure out how to stay strong here and keep moving. But if you are someone who is just like, yeah, dude, mind is dialed, body is dialed. All right, well, do something more difficult. Okay. So, one thing I did, I think it was last season, if I remember. Might have been 2 seasons ago. I can't remember. I'm always skiing vintage gear. I love vintage gear. I haven't really been out a lot on vintage gear this year, if at all. Probably as we head into spring, for sure. That's something I like to do, especially as you get slushy out. I like getting on leather boots. I like getting on skinny old school skis. That adds a challenge. It teaches me so much about myself, my telemark turn, and whatnot. But I wanted to even take it the next level a few years ago, and I put a 50-pound sandbag in a backpack. Disclaimer, I'm not telling you to do this, because if you do this and then blow your knee out, it's not my fault. I'm just saying what I did, okay? So I had this little backpack. I made this sandbag, 50 pounds, kind of a sort of a duct-taped pill, if you will, and put it in the backpack and went skiing on my vintage skis with a 50-pound pack on. I'll tell you, I think I said in that video, it's on our YouTube channel, you can look it up. I think I said vintage gear keeps you honest. 50-pound pack on vintage gear keeps you super, super honest, because you can't get by. Like, you've got so much weight and it's so hard and you're dealing with so much that it made it really hard and difficult. But I learned a lot, and I learned how to be patient in my turn, how to look at the mountain differently, how to maneuver around things, what my legs were telling me. You want to talk about being in shape and all of the little things that go into a turn. Well, add 50 pounds on top of it, and you're seriously going to learn some stuff real quick. So that was my last thing about the body is just, if you're so rocking and rolling already, make it harder for yourself. Do something different, and challenge yourself. So 2 podcasts I want to point out that you can check that relate to that and maybe can give you some ideas for how to check in with where your body's at is episode number 65, Telemark hot tip, adding size and shape to your Telemark turn. That was like 100 episodes ago, but still very relevant in terms of how you can improve your turns and things that you can do on the mountain in terms of drills and stuff that you may want to look at. And then episode number 113 with my partner, author and coach, Kate Galliette. We talked about her book that she put out last year, Becoming Unbreakable, How to Build a Body You Love to Live In. So check out that episode 113. Kate's got some amazing ways of looking at the body. And what I love about her system of thinking is this idea of what she calls the explorer's mindset. You know, it's very much individual, an individual being able to look at themselves and sort of figure out what they need to do to improve on their body and make it unbreakable. So definitely check that out. And her book's available. I'll put a link in the show notes as well, so you can pick that up if you haven't read it, and would love for you to check that out as well. Okay, so let's wrap it up with the final maintenance component, gear. So it's time to do a once over on all your equipment. Okay. So basically this time of year, we got to start looking and making sure everything is working correctly. Okay. And I always do a once over. I always start with boots. Okay. This is the time that I'm going to look at my boots. I'm going to scope out everything from the toes. If I have a tech toe, I want to make sure that stuff's looking clean. It's not breaking. Certain bindings are going to crack certain parts of the toe that over time, and you want to make sure it's not affecting the boot, the performance, whatnot. Bellows are always important. If you're new to Telemark, the bellow is that part that lets the ball of your foot flex. Some people call them baffles. I've always been baffled by that. I never understood the thing baffle. We call them bellows. Bellows are good, but honestly, old boots, as the crease of the bellow happens more and more, that plastic can wear down and eventually crack. Saw a buddy the other day. He posted he had a beautiful pair of T-Races, and he skis hard, but he cracked them, and are there fixes? Yes. Could you shoe glue them? Yes. Can you put tape on them? Yes. Look, when you break the bellows, probably a good time from a performance aspect, let alone snow and water going in your boot in the spring, just go buy a new pair of boots or find a used pair to get you through. That's just my 2 cents on it. Not because I own a retail shop either. I just think your performance and comfortability are paramount. So that's probably what I would tell you to do. So definitely scope out the boots. Make sure your buckles aren't bent. Make sure you didn't run your boot over. Check your liners. Make sure there's no holes in the liners. Make sure they're not so packed out that they're just not working. And give a nice assessment to your boots. That is such an important part of Telemark skiing, is make sure the boots function. If you've got, leather boots even, my favorite thing to do with my old leather boots in the spring is I like to polish them, like I sit down with my little polish kit. I get that black polish out. I make sure those boots look nice and shiny. And then I put a nice coat of like mink oil on them, soften them up a little bit, waterproof them, whatever boot, take some pride in your equipment and make sure that it's working correctly. So from boots, let's go to bindings. Bindings, everything you need to look at with your binding. If you've got a cable binding, 75 millimeter, you got to check and make sure your cables aren't starting to fray. They're not getting cut, and there's a variety of things to look for there. Are your cartridges spinning correctly? Do you need to put some grease inside of them? It's a good time to do that, because as we get to spring, a lot of people forget, hey, whether you got like a switchback from Volet or a G3 Targa or anything that uses like a enclosed compression spring, water will get into that. And then if you just stick them in your garage over the summer with no lubricant in them, it's likely they're going to bake down, rust, and that might be the end of that binding. Or at least enough pieces that the cost to fix it is going to suck and you're going to have to get something else. So think about your bindings. Look, make sure there's no cracks in it. Make sure that things are spinning properly. Maybe you want to get some squeakiness out. One of our protector customers told me to get some squirt chain lube. I'm literally holding this right now because I need to go put this on some Outlaws that are squeaky, and I'm trying new stuff. But just look at the bindings, make sure they're working correctly. And if you don't know all the parts, that's fine. Maybe use this little once over as a chance to go, I wonder what this thing does, and just make sure it's working correctly. Okay, that's the big thing. And then skis, same thing. Maybe get a quick tune, base grind, and a nice wax as you head into the spring, especially if you live in these lower areas where, we're skiing at like 10, 11,000 feet, so the temps can stay pretty cold for a long time. If you're in one of the parts of the world where your ski area is lower and you start getting that sun and it starts getting wet and a lot of moisture in the snow, this is the time of year. Maybe go to your local tune shop and just be like, hey, especially as it starts getting more spring conditions, like, hey, what's a good structure I can put on my base just to help me, get through this stuff a little bit better. Fix up some dings, make sure your bindings aren't shifting around in the skis like you've got some sort of mount issue going on. Just make sure everything's working correctly. And that's going to make you have a lot more fun on the hill when you get there. So the episode I wanted to point you to for this is exactly what I was just talking about. Episode 150, how to choose a used Telemark gear setup. So I was specifically in that talking about the elements of like, if I'm going to buy something used, boots, skis, or bindings, what are the factors that I'm looking at? And essentially it's a once over on all these different things. And so I would encourage you, if you're not sure where to start with sort of mid-season maintenance on your equipment, that's a good podcast to listen to that's going to sort of help you have a guidebook of like, okay, here's where I start on the boot and I'm going to go, toe to heel and up the liner and all that. And it's a good roadmap to help you out with what to look for. So that's the podcast for today, folks. Mid-season maintenance, mind, body, and gear. And I think it's such a great time of year. The skiing is great. People are out having fun. I love seeing all these events happening everywhere. Telemark is alive and well all over the world. So I just couldn't be more excited to be a part of it in our little Free Heel Life land, and appreciate all of you that listen to the podcast. Support Free Heel Life by shopping with us, which is how we are able to do this. So thank you for considering, making a purchase at freeheellife.com or coming into our retail shop. We love and appreciate all of you people. It helps us keep moving. So if you want to connect with me, you can find me on Instagram or Facebook at Josh Nomadson. The shop you can find at Free Heel Life across the board. Please sign up for the mailing list. You do not have to be a social media person to be part of what we're doing. As long as you have email, that's a great way. And if you're local, or hey, you could even just call us. You don't even need email. If you have questions, you can reach out to us at customer service at freeheellife.com, podcast at freeheellife.com. If you have a bone to pick with me, or you like the episode, or you want to let me know about an event, I'm always open to it all, and I get all of them. So it's great, and really appreciate that. So I'm going to let you get going. Have an amazing week, and until next time, spread Telemark always, my friends. See you later.